The following is an Operation Podcast production.
We can be our own advocate. We can do our own research. And, not that it's bad to be working with a doctor. That's great. We can't ignore the signs that our body is telling us. And we have to be our own health advocate at the same time.
So important to really, again, going back to that really deep inner listening. If I feel that this has been placed in me, if this is within me, it is within me for a reason.
Yeah. So much of this is tuning in versus, we live in a world with so many distractions and so much pressure. I just think taking moments of stillness every single day is so crucial. Moments just to unplug. I think we have to in order to pay attention to our what our bodies are telling us on a physical level, what our mind is going through, just how am I doing? How is my headspace? How is my body? What can I do differently? What do I have to let go of and relinquish control of? Just I think a lot of people forget to do that.
Are you ready for a wild ride? I'm Alexis Artin, and I invite you to strap in because this is more than a podcast. This is Look at Me Now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Look at Me Now. This one features my fantastic new boot. So if you are looking at the YouTube version of this, you will see my astronaut boot on my now broken left foot. But I digress. I made it in to film this podcast no matter what, because I have an amazing guest here with me today. I am so excited to introduce you to Bethany McDaniel, the founder of Primally Pure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Alexis.
Longtime listeners know I am a cancer survivor, and things change dramatically when you get a diagnosis like that. And all of a sudden, the things that maybe you weren't super concerned with before in terms of what you put on your body or what you put in your body, things change in terms of your priorities in that area. And to know that everything is farmed, to know that the source, to know where everything is coming from is such a crucial component for somebody like me that really does care about that stuff. And so kudos to you for putting such tender, loving care into creating these incredible products.
Thank you. And it's an honor to be a part of that journey for you. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course. That's why I was so thrilled to get you in here and have a deeper convo with the woman behind the brand. So I want to, as we always do, stick to the format of the show, which is really learning about how you came to create this and to be the matriarch of these products, and do it through the lens of looking at your story. So if we were to really turn backward on the timeline and look back at your beginnings, how this all began to formulate in you, can you walk us back and give us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, absolutely. My story with Primally Pure really started when I was a teenager. I was struggling with acne, and I went the conventional route to treat my acne. That was the only thing I knew at the time. And so my mom had taken me to the dermatologist, and I was prescribed a lot of different creams and ointments and even several rounds of antibiotics, which I later learned had a really detrimental effect on my gut and then kind of exacerbated the problem. Helped temporarily, but did not do me any favors long term. And so I always kind of knew intrinsically there had to be something more to this rather than just treating my acne and my skincare concerns with chemicals. And it wasn't until later in life when I met my now husband, and he was in the process of starting a regenerative livestock farm with his dad and brothers. And that kind of opened my eyes to a whole new way of looking at food and what I was putting into my body, what I was consuming. I changed my diet. I started eating more real foods, less processed food. And I noticed that I felt a lot better and my skin started to clear up. And I was able to go off of all of the prescriptions that I had been on, including birth control, which was also prescribed to me just for my acne as a teenager. And so I was able to go off of all of these things. My skin was getting better and better. And I started thinking, okay, what's the next thing I can change? I've been wrong about what I've been eating my whole life. I've been eating processed foods my whole life. That hasn't been good for me. Like, what else can I change? And I started looking into my skincare products and my personal care products. I was really surprised when I started researching deodorant, just all of the harmful chemicals in the deodorant that I had grown up using. Not only does it have aluminum, which has been linked to Alzheimer's disease, most deodorants are filled with parabens, which in one study, they found that 98% of breast cancer tumors that they sampled had parabens in them. Fragrance is another big one. So I really wanted to focus on deodorant first. And there were some natural deodorants on the market at the time, but none of them worked. I tried them all. They just didn't work. So I kind of made it my mission to formulate a natural deodorant that worked. And I was like rubbing these like coconut oil and baking soda on my underarms, and it actually worked really well. And I wanted my husband to try it, and he was like, no, that's weird. I'm not doing that. So I was like, okay, I have to figure out how to make this in stick form. And so I was just in my kitchen, like just made so many iterations of this like deodorant in stick form. Over 100 by the time I finally found one that I was happy with, a formula that I was happy with and that worked for my husband and other like friends and family members that I was testing it on. And then I thought, okay, I think I have something here with this deodorant. And I started selling it on my family farm's website. It really took off. I didn't really mean for it to be a business, but I was just so fueled by the excitement from the people who had tried it. And I was also formulating other products at the time too. So I had like 5 products that I had really felt like I perfected enough to kind of put them out there into the world, and got really good feedback on them from just selling them through my family farm. And then I did that for a while and thought, okay, this could really like be something. And then I officially launched Primally Pure in 2015. I was still doing everything out of my kitchen at the time for about a year. And within a few months of officially starting my company, I got pregnant with our first daughter. And I was kind of nearing her due date and thinking, okay, I'm still doing this out of my house. I have like a couple of part-time employees that are kind of coming in and out. And we were living in a tiny farmhouse. So every room was occupied with Primally Pure. I was shipping products out of what became her nursery. I was labeling products on our living room couch. I was making products in the kitchen. And so I was just thinking like, what am I going to do once she arrives? Like, I don't really want people coming in and out of the house, making deodorant in our kitchen when I'm trying to like figure out how to be a new mom. So I thought either I have to put this thing on pause and like literally put a pause on the website and say, we'll be back in 3 months, once I've kind of got the hang of like this motherhood thing, or I have to scale up and go outside of my comfort zone and hire someone full time, move the business out of the house into an office warehouse space, which was really risky at the time financially, but that's the route I decided to go. And I was so thankful because not only did it allow the business to continue to grow in my absence, but it also showed me that I do not have to do everything myself, and that I can actually let go of things and and trust other people to do these things that I had like held so closely to for so long. And so, yeah, and that's a whole nother time. I mean, I could go into that. I feel like motherhood, with every child I've had, it's like taught me so much about not only life, but also like my business and how to grow my business and let go of responsibilities. But
because now you've had 2 other children.
Yeah, there's 3 now.
3 in the process of building what has turned out to be a really massively successful business baby.
Yeah, yes. It's been, So yeah, it's all happened like within the last 10 years now. We turned 10 as a company in February. So much growth, so many challenges, so many ups and downs, but like such invaluable experience at the same time.
Ladies and gentlemen, gather round. Your skin called and it's tired. Tired of the chemical science projects we've been slathering on it. You know the ones. 17 syllables, sounds like a villain from a superhero movie. Yeah, those. But guess what? There's a better way. Enter Primally Pure. This stuff is like a vacation for your face. We're talking clean, natural, made with actual plants kind of skincare. Because at this point in life, we are done with the nonsense. No toxic junk, no empty promises, just good for you ingredients that actually work. And don't worry, it's not one of those smells like dirt natural brands. No, think lavender, citrus, eucalyptus, bliss. So whether you're battling laugh lines, because let's face it, we're hilarious, or just trying to bring back that glow you forgot existed, Primally Pure has got your back and your face and your pits, because their deodorant, life-changing. Give your skin the love that it deserves. Head over to primallypure.com. Trust me, your skin will thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting because there is an intrinsic motivation that we all have, right? Inspiration, like even just the etymology of the word inspire, right, is like almost like to breathe. And it's as natural as breathing. What is meaningful to us, what our inspiration is. And when we stumble upon it, right, as you did, it was so personal to you because you went through what I'm assuming was suffering as a result of your acne and how it was presenting. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth or to your experience. Would you say that there was indeed suffering involved with that, and like the need for a solution felt like more important than anything in the world to you?
Yeah, I think, as a teenager, we're all vulnerable. We're all like self-conscious as it is already. And then struggling with acne on top of that just adds a whole nother layer of like embarrassment. And so, and that continued on into like my young adult years. And so I did think that there was like some deeper healing that needed to happen. We're told that these types of things are normal and they're definitely common, but I kind of always knew like this isn't normal. There has to be some kind of imbalance in my body. So it didn't sit well with me until I was able to kind of pull back those layers and kind of do like some deeper healing in my body and find that solution.
And that's what I mean by like, you were so intrinsically motivated. Like our pain will often become our purpose, right?
Yeah.
And like you are struggling with something, you are suffering through something, there's no comparing one person's suffering to another, right? To be a teenager and to feel really self-conscious about something, it can be really, really painful. And it can really set you on a journey to go, what is the solution to my suffering? And for you to then be so selfless about that selfish desire to go, not only am I going to seek out a solution for myself, I want to then pay it forward to everybody else that may be suffering from something similar. And I say it all the time on this podcast, and I'm a representative of it, that our mess becomes our message. And it's just so evident in your story that we all, if we're really honest with ourselves, if we're really willing to look at the truth of ourselves and what our purpose is and like live into alignment with that, so often the answer is right in front of us.
Yeah.
The answer to our greatest solution is sometimes from our suffering, often from our suffering.
Yeah. And it also provides like a way out of that suffering to not only find the solution for yourself, but to also bring that solution to others. Then that's when like the fulfillment happens and you see like, oh, that's why I went through that. Like to take me to this place and to help other people who may have struggled in the same way. Like it like heals that for you when you're able to do that.
Yes. Being of service is always a step toward healing and a step towards growth. Yeah. Absolutely. Oftentimes when people are in suffering, it is being of service that actually is the step that, allows them to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, you are such an example of that, having gone through this cancer journey and starting the podcast at the same time, and doing all of that simultaneously and sharing that experience with the world. Like there's so much fruit in that. So much. And I always say there's equal light to dark. I mean, if you ever feel like the shadow is so immense, then you need to posture yourself to find the light, because there's always equal light to shadow. It's just it's science. Yeah.
It's science. And something about the science, right? Because you are, really formulating some magic. And it's funny that you said what you said about the process of learning that what you were putting in your body was creating your problems. Because even, I would say, oh God, 30, I'm dating myself here, like 30 years ago or something, I was getting sick all the time. And my friends would make fun of me and go, you have the digestive system of an infant. You're like always like either throwing up or like running for the bathroom. Like you eat something and it's the response is immediate. Like what is going on with you? And I had been to so many doctors and people were saying things like, oh, you have stomach migraines. I mean, I feel like they were just making things up at a certain point because they didn't know what it was. And that was when my mom at one point was like, maybe it's not, like your body that's the problem. Maybe it's what you're putting in your body that's the problem. And so a friend of mine was like, I've just heard of this nutritionist. You should go see him. And I went to him and he ran a battery of tests. And this was before like nutritionists were popular. Do you know what I mean? Or like testing your stool, for bacteria was popular. That was like weird. It was weird, right? Now it's like everybody, well, not everybody. That's, let me rephrase that. It's commonly accepted by, some of the people that are on that path. Yeah. And, but he was doing it long before his time. And I was willing to do anything, including test my own stool to get an answer. And it turned out that I had a gluten allergy, which again, most people have heard of this thing. There are now menus at, global chains for people with gluten intolerance or allergies. And, but they weren't diagnosing it back then. And now they have all the gluten-free menus, right? Yes. You can go order gluten-free pizza and gluten-free cookies and donuts and things. But back then, being gluten-free, nobody knew what it was. So I was literally living off of like lettuce and boiled chicken because everything was dangerous to me. If I ate something that had cross-contamination or gluten in it, I was going to get really, really sick. And it took a long time for me to heal my gut or, my digestive tract. But I eventually did after a few months and it changed everything. Not only was I not getting sick after eating, but my periods, my menstruation cycles were better. I wasn't getting migraines anymore. My mood was improved. My energy and focus was improved. Like everything changed in my life. And so there's like a ripple effect that happens when you self-care. And granted, we're putting a microscope on like what you eat as a version of self-care and how that ripple effect happens. But I think any approach of self-care can do that for a person. Yeah. And have you experienced this for yourself as well, that the ripple effect happens?
For sure. Yeah. I think self-care can get a bad name when we think of it only as like indulgences. And I think that can fit into the scope of self-care, but it's not just that. It's not just about like taking a bubble bath and like indulging in chocolate ice cream or something. Like that's a version of it that applies sometimes. But sometimes self-care is like doing the hard things that actually benefit you long-term so that you can show up as your best self for the people in your life and the world around you. And so that's like how I like to think of self-care is like, not just how can I satisfy myself in this moment, but like, how can I best care for myself long-term so that I'm the mom I want to be for my kids and so that I can live a long life and be an active grandma someday. And, these are the things that I try to think about on a day-to-day basis with the food that I eat and, incorporating like moments of stillness and silence into my day and moving my body and things like that. It's like, I don't always want to do those things and I don't always do those things, but I try to make an effort to do that as much as possible because I know it's going to equip me to just better be of service to those in my life.
And it's so easy not to. Yeah, I mean, we know as mothers and as women who are, trying to cultivate and flourish a growing business, a thriving business, it's not easy. And that's why, my coach always used to say to me, schedule it or forget it. Like if you are not making self-care a priority, nobody else is going to do that for you. Yeah. And if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you're not going to be of any good to yourself because you'll be knocked out, unconscious, or anybody else because you're unconscious.
Right.
Like it is a necessity. And I can't say that often enough, especially because so many women do listen to this podcast and a lot of them, have a lot of responsibility on their plate, whatever that responsibility looks like. And so it's very easy for self-care to slide off the agenda.
Yeah. And I think there's moments where it does go out the window where it like has to, like if you have a sick child, like, yes, like drop everything and care for your child. But if you're not like investing in your own health, like on a continuous basis, then like that's going to be the thing that then like takes you down too. So like you have to care for yourself. So when those unexpected things do come up where you literally can't fit self-care in for whatever reason, because that will happen, you won't get taken down by that and thrown completely off your rails.
Yeah.
If you have been putting those investments into yourself, like leading up to that.
Yeah. I think you're talking about the Eisenhower matrix where it's like, there's urgent and important, not urgent and important. And, putting things in their rightful place of priority and realizing that gets to be fluid and we don't have to beat ourselves up when things change or when we mismanage those, but just have a higher level of awareness of those things.
Yes.
And at the same time, be checking back in to the ultimate source of feedback, which is your body, for the information of what is really the top priority right now.
Yeah.
And not ignoring it, not overriding it, not bullying it or shaming it, like just honoring and revering it.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think like in the world that we live in now for the last several decades, we've been outsourcing our health to doctors and just trusting whatever they say as being like the absolute truth of, okay, nothing's wrong with you. Okay, I must be fine. Or you need to take this pill. And sometimes maybe that's the case, but also I think tuning into yourself is so important. And we have access to so much information now to like when something isn't right, like we can be our own advocate. We can do our own research and, not that it's bad to like be working with a doctor. That's great. If you have, a doctor that you feel comfortable with and confident in, but we can't ignore like the signs that our body is telling us. And we have to like be our own health advocate at the same time.
Amen. Can I get a hallelujah? I've thank you just for like speaking my brain out loud because especially just in my cancer journey, as an example, I'm like, okay, I'm going to experiment with chemo fasting and autophagy, and I'm going to experiment with cold cap therapy, and I'm going to and my doctors are going, well, there's no evidence that any of that. And I'm like, evidence, schmevidence, like that's your opinion. And
they're not trained in that stuff.
And there's also,
know.
like there is some evidence, there is some research. I mean, is there more to do? But like, can it hurt me if I do this? No, well, it's not going to hurt you. Great that I'm doing it, or even just as a new mother, me having intuition that something was wrong with my child. And everybody said, oh, you're being a new mom. You're just being dramatic and hypersensitive. You're just, overthinking it. And meanwhile, I was right. My child did have a problem. My child indeed had several problems. And until somebody finally listened to me, like that little baby was suffering with all of these problems that nobody took me seriously about. Wow. And I've learned over and over and over again that the power of our intuition and the power of our deep knowing and the power of our body to communicate the truth to us.
Yes.
Your mind will lie to you all day long, but your body doesn't know how. You've got to turn to the wisdom of your deepest knowing that your body is communicating to you. Yeah. And you've got to take care of that body. That is your greatest ally, your greatest instrument.
Totally. I resonate with that so much. And we talk about that as it relates to the skin a lot too, like rashes, acne, these are all like your
feedback.
Skin is talking to you.
Yes.
It's telling you something.
Dashboard lights.
Yes. So rather than just masking those symptoms with pharmaceuticals, like, let's troubleshoot that and like figure that out because there's something going on internally that your skin is trying to tell you. And if you just cover it up, you'll never know what it was trying to tell you in the first place.
Right.
And so that's why with Primally Pure, education has always been a core component of the brand because yes, we want people to use our products. They work great. They're non-toxic. They're not going to add to your toxic load like other skincare products will. But we also have been passionate about pairing that with education on just how to live a healthy life in general, because you can't do one without the other and
Right.
experience the same results. Like our skincare isn't just about the products we use on our skin. It's about what we eat, the lifestyle we live, how we manage our stress, our sleep. There's all these things that go into
Contributing
the health of the
factors.
skin. Yeah.
I mean, and the education piece is so important, right? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. If you are unaware, you're not going to be able to make informed decisions. And our personal power lies in our ability to choose, our ability to make the most informed decision that we can in any moment.
Yeah.
And not to beat ourselves up if we made a decision and we get feedback and the feedback says, oh, maybe there's a different decision that's better. But just to say, oh, I can learn from that. I can go from that and now make an even more informed decision.
Of course.
And that really is our superpower, is our awareness and our ability to choose over and over and over again and to continue to gain more insight and information and education.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not going to look perfect. Like we can't always know what the best thing is in every moment. Like we're going to make mistakes and that's okay. And we just have to learn from them and then can keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that there is such a beautiful lesson in allowing yourself the space to play, right? To play with what works, to experiment with what works. Because you said the word perfection. And I know I can raise my hand and say that loves to creep in, perfectionism all the time, right? It's like, I've got time's ticking and I only have so much money to spend. And, I've got, all of these things that I need to get done and get done right and blah, 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 blah. That so often we don't give ourselves the room to experiment, to mess it up, to get it wrong so that we can eventually get it right.
Yeah.
And I think there is such a gift in giving yourself the permission to play and to experiment.
Yeah. I think there's so much freedom in that and just allowing yourself the ability to live imperfectly. Not that we don't try, not that we give up, but
yes,
just giving ourselves grace, no matter where we're at. We're always changing as women, like the phase of life that we're in, the time of the month, our age, like things are just always shifting within us and just giving ourselves grace to show up as best as we can in that moment.
Yeah, it's like having kids.
Yeah.
I mean, what you think, I figured out the schedule, and then they grow up and they're in a new schedule.
Totally.
Right? It reminds me of that movie. Did you ever see that movie, Bad Moms?
No. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about though.
Oh my gosh, it's so, she gives this grand speech at the end and she's just like, we're all bad moms. And just giving us so much grace and so much permission that we're never going to be perfect. So let's just embrace that we're bad moms. I mean, obviously we're not bad moms. We do our best at every turn, but none of us are ever going to be, perfect.
Right.
And to sort of relinquish that idea that there's a responsibility or an expectation for us to deliver perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. And our kids can still grow up to become amazing people in spite of our mistakes.
That's right.
There's no perfect parent. None of us were parented 100% perfectly. And there's still growth that can happen, regardless of that. Yeah. So I think we need to give that to ourselves, then also to each other and just kind of accept us, accept one another as we are. And
I'm so glad you
judge.
said that because you and I were actually talking before the cameras rolled about how open and honest and vulnerable have I been about my cancer journey, and me saying, for me personally, I don't know another way to be other than really authentic, really outspoken, really honest, forthcoming, vulnerable, and not only because that is my personality, or that at least has become my personality because of the experiences that I've been through in my life, but because I think there's a way to be of service in showing up that way, in not gatekeeping my experience, in not hoarding information, in not being cagey, right, with what I've learned or what I believe. And I'm not sharing it because I believe that I'm the end all be all expert on anything either. But there's power in numbers, and I think that we have a degraded culture, specifically among women, where we feel like we've been isolated and we've been separated and we've sort of been, compared, despair, pitted against each other, rather than showing up in support of one another and sharing our secrets, right? And I think that's another thing that is just so great, is that you took a big risk to bring this to people because you believed in it, and you believed in the power of, like Linda the Good, like you believed in the power of the good that you were doing, not just for yourself, but for the greater good. And to take on that risk, to be able to do that is huge. And I think it speaks volumes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was actually it was a Steve Harvey video. So he gives these little like chats to the audience after Family Feud, and I saw one of them.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah, it was so good. It's called I think it's just called Jump. Like if someone were to Google Steve Harvey Jump, this speech would come up, and it like totally empowered me to just take this leap of faith and just like trust that God had put this on my heart for a reason, and it was my job to be faithful in like taking that next step forward. However imperfectly that looked at the time, like that's besides the point. It's just like having the courage to act on, I think we all have these goals and dreams that like are put into us for a reason. And I think so many people don't act on them out of fear. They're scared, like, well, I don't know that next step. What are people going to say about me? Like, what if I fail? And it's like, you just have to put all of that aside. Like some of that may happen, you may fail. Like I've failed a million times in my journey, but I've also learned from every failure. And I'm really proud to have taken risks and to have just taken that next step forward in life, and not just succumb to the fear of like, well, what if it doesn't work out, the exact right way? Like, it's okay. It's not going to. It doesn't for anyone. Like, even if you're comparing yourself to someone who's 20 years in their journey and you think they have it all figured out, like, you don't see how many failures and mistakes got them to that point.
Oh my God. That's a whole other podcast we could have here, because I'm so glad that you laid that out on the table, right? First of all, everybody go look at that Jump video. I'm going to go look at it. And that ability to leap and the net appearing is eminently possible for everybody, but we do feel our own limitations. And oftentimes they are extremely fear-based, right? Granted, life does have certain limits in terms of resources and whatever, but where there's a will, there's a way, right? You may have had the opportunity to go all in. Somebody else may do it as a side hustle and then, hopefully build up the ability to go all in. But there's always a way where there's a will, where there's inspiration. It's the encouragement to follow that inspiration. I know for me, I was working in the entertainment industry, and I was really successful in the entertainment industry. I was working with A-list celebrities, flying around on private jets, making a really great amount of money. I mean, from the outside gaze, I really had it all. And I decided to leave the industry and to go into female empowerment. And people were like, what? You're what? No, you're nuts. What are you doing? And my insides knew that there was no other option. I mean, I was cutting my salary by more than 80%.
Wow.
I didn't know that there was even a future. I mean, this was a long time ago that I did this, like more than a decade ago that I did this. Female empowerment was like not something that you were going to make a living doing, and even coaching wasn't necessarily what it is now at that time. And so to just go, I'm leaving all of the success and all of the certainty and all of the access and all of the things that come with that, per that external gaze. And I am going to leap and just trust that the net is going to appear, because I've got to go with what my soul is saying is really going to serve and fulfill me.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And now here I am. And it could have gone any which way, right? But I had made the promise to myself. And this is where, when you talk about, God had put this in my heart, or I had to have faith and trust, right? That, and I really want to lay this out for our audience is, number one, my coach said to me, what if you had a 1-year contract with yourself where you said, I'm going to try this for a year, and whatever happens at the end of that year, whether you succeed or whether you fail, which if you wouldn't even call those things real, right? Because there is no success or failure in the coaching world, right? But let's say that you perceive that you failed. Whatever happens at the end of that year, the agreement, the contract that you are signing with yourself is that I will greet myself with nothing but open arms, like you would a child that you loved unconditionally. I am so proud of you. God, I'm so proud of you. You really went for it. You really put yourself out there. Like, you really tried. You really put everything into it. And whatever happened as a result of that, fuck, I'm proud of you. I love you so much. And to just sit with whoever shows up at the end of that year and say, and now what? What do you want to do now? Because I'm behind you. Yeah. And it comes back to that idea of what this podcast is about. Like, whatever you do or you don't do, you're worthy of love. But when you're on your deathbed and you look back, you're never going to say, I wish I didn't go for it.
No. Have you read that book or heard of that book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of regrets over taking like the safe road instead of like following their actual dream or passion.
Yeah.
Or regrets about working too much in a job they didn't like just to make ends meet versus either following their dream or spending more time with family.
That's
or,
right.
Or
it's
doing
never,
the
I
things
wish
they
I made
loved.
more money, or I
No,
wish I had more
never.
houses that I can't
Never.
take with me now, or
Never.
It's never about that,
Yeah.
right? It's so fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it is so important to really, again, going back to that really deep inner listening of like, if I feel that this has been placed in me, right? Like you said, that God put this on my heart. I love the way you said that. If this is within me, it is within me for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much of this is like tuning in versus, I mean, we live in a world with so many distractions and so much pressure. I just think of like the technology, the devices that we have on us all the time. It's just constant distraction.
Yes.
And it's like, I just think taking moments of stillness every single day is so crucial, like moments just to unplug. And whether that's a walk or prayer, meditation, I think we have to, in order to pay attention to our, like what our bodies are telling us on a physical level, like what our mind is going through, just like, how am I doing? How is my headspace? How is my body? Like, what can I do differently? What do I have to let go of and relinquish control of? Just, I think a lot of people forget to do that and take time to do that.
And that's why I created Soul Sway Practice, is because it's the combination of mindfulness meets somatic movement, meets meditation. It meets like, where are you bringing your soul or your source of unconditional love or your trust or your certainty back into the humanity of you, which has to assess threat all the time, has to filter through all of the input, all of the information that you're constantly being bombarded with, which is louder now than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
And it's like your emotional inbox, your mental inbox, your physical inbox. Like, how often are you really tuning in and filtering through all of that input to sort out what you want to keep, what you want to delete, what you need to save for later, what you need to send back and go, the ball's in your court now, not mine. Like, there is not a lot of practices out there that are helping you filter through that emotional, intellectual, physical inbox that you carry around with you. And I think to go back to this idea of what you've created is like, if you're not sorting through those things and you're not attending to those things and you're not listening to those things, they're going to speak to you, whether that is, through a rash on your skin or cancer or what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about this as a mom too. Like if that's something I'm always having to evaluate, like, okay, how does this balance of like motherhood and the work I'm doing, like how does it feel in this moment? And like, how are my kids doing? Like what messages are they sending, whether it's like what they're actually saying or like what their behavior is telling me? Like, do I need to drop everything this afternoon and like go on a date with my daughter because I feel like we need to connect right now. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it applies on so many levels.
On every level.
Yeah.
On every level. I mean, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And I think that's so beautiful that you're that attuned too.
I try to be.
Yeah.
I've made mistakes with that too. But I mean, it's
we all do,
I Primally Pure is a passion for me. Like I've always evaluated like, okay, do I need to drop everything and be a mom? And then I always land with like, no, I think it's going to be it's a part of my story. It's going to continue to be a part of my story. Like I don't feel compelled to sell my company or go that route. I think it adds value to my life and to my family's life when I'm doing it well, when I'm not consumed by it, when it's a part of my life, but when it doesn't become too big and take over other areas of my life that are more important to me. Like my family is more important to me than my business. But like, what does my calendar look like? Is my calendar reflecting that? If not, then I need to like adjust some things.
And everybody that's listening, this is balance and this is how we do it. I want to echo what you're saying in my own experience of how do you, people always say like, well, how do you do it all? Or Sheryl Sandberg's like lean in, like, how do we get to have it all? And it's by doing our best, allowing ourselves to experiment, being graceful with ourselves in that experimenting, but also to know this is my highest value. This is my highest priority. This is my next highest value and highest priority. Like these are the things that are meaningful to me. Looking every day at what's urgent and important and versus, what's not urgent, still important, that matrix that I was talking about. Being able to be fluid and flexible with that, knowing that you still need to refill the tank and have those self-care options, whether that is just I'm eating something nourishing for myself today to I'm actually going to have time to take a bubble bath or whatever, or my daughter actually needs my attention more than anything else right now. So I'm going to juggle things, but knowing that we always have the room to renegotiate things, to make things work, and to know that we can balance everything and we don't need to be perfect about how we do that as long as we set the intention to do it and do it to the best of our ability in each moment as it presents itself. And I think that presence has a lot to do with that, because what I hear you dialing in on when you say like, oh, I turn to my daughter and I tune into her, I have a present moment with her. And in that presence, I'm able to notice what she needs. And then I'm able to look at all of my priorities and look at my calendar and renegotiate appropriately. And I feel like that's another really key factor to being able to be all of the things that we are and really tune into what's needed and keep it all functioning.
Totally. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you agree with that?
I like that word renegotiation.
Yeah.
Because like nothing, just because something is the way it is in that moment, like it doesn't have to always be like you have so much of a say. I think we have more of a say than we remember oftentimes in like how we spend our day, what our month looks like. Like if there's something like on your calendar that you feel uncomfortable with or like it's too much, like we have control over those things.
We have agency. We have autonomy. We get to make these decisions and not beat ourselves up over it. And I feel like that's
just
the key.
Out of like pressure or the desire to like appease others and their opinions. Like we have to do what's best for us, what's best for our families, and like what feels in line with our priorities and what we want out of life.
1,000%, and not beating ourselves up for saying no or letting no be a whole sentence and not over explaining ourselves or to cancel something that has dropped on the priority list, or to move to say yes to something that is a priority, even though maybe it wasn't before, and we get to change our mind. I mean, all of these things are—
Every yes is a no to something
Yes,
else.
We're constantly having to renegotiate these things and to give ourselves permission. And really, I can't emphasize enough, not shame ourselves, not guilt ourselves, not make ourselves wrong, when we do the renegotiations or when we do make a decision that might be in conflict with something that was expected of us. I feel like that is so important and is such an important part of the process of being able to be, and I'm using this in air quotes for people that can't see me, successful.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Success, like it's not defined by whether you've met all of these other people's expectations. Like at the end of the day, that's not important.
Right. The external gaze does not measure it.
Yeah.
Does not measure it. So currently on the timeline of you, motherhood, primally pure, like what is the pulse of what is going on right now with where you're at?
Yeah. I mean, right now there's a lot going on. Started like I said, with just me doing everything in our kitchen. Now we have about 110 employees, which sounds crazy, but like thankfully I'm in more of a founder role now. Like I was the CEO for a long time. I transitioned into a founder role a few years ago, which has been such a blessing. Like it's been the right move, 100% for me, for my family, and I can focus on the things in the company that I really feel the most passionate about and where I can add the most value. I think for a long time I was putting pressure on myself of like, okay, I need to be the CEO. I need to manage people. I need to have a say in every facet of the business. And then I had a conversation with, I was co-CEO for a while with the man who's now our CEO. And I was kind of wrestling with this. And he's like, well, do you want that? Like, and I asked myself the same question too. And the answer was no. Like, that's not where I feel like I can add the most value. Like managing people, it sucks the life out of me. It's not fun for me. Some people love it and that's great, but like that's not me. That's not what I was like made to do. I love the creative work. I love the being involved in our education and the information that we put out there and the product development. Like that's the fun part for me. And so just letting go of the other things was hard, but like I haven't looked back at all. And so I'm really involved in product development now, really involved in, we have a podcast called Grounded Wellness that we shoot outside at our regenerative farm. So that's a big thing on my, for me right now. I love doing that. And then, like working with people on the team in different roles, but not like directly managing them. Like I love still getting the camaraderie and working closely with certain people on the team. It's really fun for me. But I can honestly say I now feel like I'm at a place where work feels really fun and fulfilling and not draining. And of course, there's days or moments where, it feels like a lot. But then I'm just really thankful that now, it wasn't always this way, but that now I'm in a position where I can renegotiate, what's on my plate and kind of divide some of those responsibilities up when it does start to feel kind of heavy. But I also think it's important to know, like, there are, like, I feel like the hustle gets a bad rap sometimes, but there is a time and a place for it when it kind of is necessary, when you do have to grind a little bit and set aside certain things and give up certain things. Like I didn't have much of a social life for a long time when I was building Primally Pure. And sure, I could have, and maybe I would have felt like I had a little bit more balance at the time. But I'm also like grateful that I was able to have several years where I was just pouring myself into Primally Pure because I think that it allowed it I was able to really set the foundation at that time for what I wanted the company to be, to get to a place where now I do have more balance and more peace.
Well, it's sort of like raising a baby too. It's just, it's going to suck a lot of your energy and a lot of your resources. And that's just sort of part of the gig.
Yeah.
And there's always choice. You can have a social life and have a baby, or have a job and have a baby, or whatever. But oftentimes, like you said, there's always going to be saying yes to one thing means saying no to another. And that's sort of part of the constant renegotiation of where am I going to dedicate my resources, and again, not beating yourself up about it.
Yeah.
But I also really wanted to highlight and double click on, you said in a couple different moments throughout our conversation, this idea of I had to trust other people. I had to trust the product and the idea would fly without me being, again, micromanaging, making sure everything is perfect and under my control, and being able to say, you know what, I'm going to trust. I'm going to move it out of the house. I'm going to hire somebody full time. I'm going to now have 110 people under me that I'm trusting, right? Which has a massive, it can dilute things, and it can have a trickle down effect where, it's certainly not you're not even like hands-on to the second degree, you're hands-on to like the 110th degree. And having that level of trust in what you've built and in the culture that you've created, and in the belief in the product and its ability to have its own relationship with people.
Yeah.
And there's something really beautiful in that lesson that we can learn from you, is our ability to trust, not blindly trust. I'm not saying that. I'm sure that you were very intentional about the way that you've done things, but to be able to grow sometimes is to be able to let go and to surrender and to trust the process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a lie to believe that like, I am the only one who can do X, Y, and Z. No one is going to do it as well as me. Maybe that's true for certain things, but it's not ever true for everything. Like, there are people that are working in my company right now that are doing their jobs way better than I could. And I'm thankful for them.
How empowering to them too, by the way. It's like, I have a mentor who always says, like, whatever you don't want to do, which by the way, kudos to you for going, actually don't want to do these things. They drain me.
Yeah.
For being honest with yourself rather than being like, no, I just have to control everything, right?
Yeah.
To be honest with yourself enough to go, yeah, you know what? That's actually not where my bread gets buttered. That's actually not what brings me energy and fulfillment. So why am I going to dedicate my precious resources to that when there's so many other things that I would rather dedicate my resources to? Why don't I trust you? Trust that actually brings you energy. It fulfills you. You're really good at it. And I'll let you do that. And then I'll do what I'm really good at, right? And get my fulfillment that way. And now we're all winning.
Yeah.
Versus
100%.
I'm going to take it all on, which is going to deplete me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to make you resentful because I'm micromanaging what you're doing, and it's going to drain you and it's going to drain me, and nobody's winning here. Yeah. Again, just sort of going back to that trust and it being in collaboration,
Totally
being a multiplier.
Yeah.
In all the ways
that are important. We try to have that mindset in the company in general of like just people's roles, like having hard conversations of like, hey, we're like, these things aren't happening, but you're doing so great in these things. Like, what do you think about moving into more of this role? And it's like, it's hard for people to hear that sometimes because they're like, what? Like, I'm not doing a good enough job. And it's like, well, no, you're just more gifted over here. So it's
yes.
It's
you're
just
demonstrating
like finding the right seat for people.
You're demonstrating where you are most valuable. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Let's run with it. It's not that you're not good over here, but you're great over here.
Right. I think people feel like automatically just feel like shame of like, oh, I'm not. They just see like what they're not doing instead of like, no, but this, like, you're so great with this. Like, what if you were just doing like these things and that was your focus? And it's like, I think, it's been interesting.
Some people don't like to clean toilets or fix broken toilets. Other people do. Let them be the plumbers. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to clean a toilet or fix a toilet.
Right. Right.
And there's, and there's nothing wrong with you if you do. It's just put you to your point,
different.
like good to great, find the right seat on the bus.
Yeah.
And be willing to move seats, to
Yeah.
renegotiate. Let's let the information speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, okay. So we've looked back. We've sat in the present moment. As we face forward on the timeline, what do you see on the horizon?
Yeah, it's a good question. The big question I always get is like, when are you going to go into retail? Are you going to go into retail? Because that, generally companies I think would have done that a lot sooner. We're still all direct to consumer, which I love because like I said, the education is so important to me. That direct connection with our customers is so important. And we make everything in-house. So we manufacture ourselves and, getting consumers like the most fresh products. We use all natural ingredients. So we don't use heavy chemical-laden preservatives to preserve our products. So we make things fresh, send them directly to people versus like sitting them in a warehouse for however long and then on a store shelf for however long before the customer actually gets their product. So for us, that is the model that works. I feel like we still haven't fully maxed that out yet. So we're going to keep going with that for as long as possible, keep focusing on education. We did a really fun billboard campaign last year about tallow. We use beef tallow in our products, which was kind of unpopular when I started Primally Pure, but my family had this regenerative farm and I was doing a lot of research into the benefits of tallow and how it has been used ancestrally for years and years and years. And now that's kind of starting to pick up some momentum with the general public. So that was fun. We did a billboard campaign with that, and then we're launching a sunscreen in a few months, and we'll do another fun campaign with sunscreen. And I think the sun also gets a bad name sometimes, but like in my opinion, we can have a balanced approach to the sun and benefit.
I totally agree.
Yeah, we can benefit from it without being completely fearful of it. So anyways, it's really exciting for me now as the founder of Primally Pure to see these like more ancestral conversations becoming more mainstream, things that we've been talking about for so long becoming more like widely accepted. So yeah, I'm just excited for what's ahead. I feel like there's a lot of cool things happening right now in America and in like the health space and people just kind of realizing that how we've been doing things maybe isn't working so well. And I think there's a lot of people out there like searching for a different way forward. And so I'm just excited to be a part of that.
Be a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to pose to you the question that we pose to everybody at the end of the podcast.
I'm nervous.
Oh gosh, it's a good one. Well, I'm really just going to offer
excited.
you a look at me now moment. So I want you to imagine that you have a mirror in front of you.
Okay.
And as you gaze into that mirror and you take yourself in, to let all of the external voices, expectations, gaze, judgment, to just fade away for this one solitary moment between you and all the yous that you've been up until this point. The you that had acne and suffered so greatly, all the way up to the you that's now helping people heal themselves from that level of suffering in a really beautiful, healing, natural way as a result of your own journey. Just taking a moment alone with that person, and no matter what you've done or not done, being worthy of love, what do you have to say to that reflection?
It's a really cool thing to reflect on. And this is actually something I've been like thinking about off and on in the last several months. Just thinking about like different, like this part of my personality that I think can be intense and can, be kind of go all in on things and how that's been detrimental in some ways. But like ultimately I'm thankful that I am that way and I'm thankful for those like past versions of myself that like went like too hard at whatever thing it was. And like, I can't even think of an example right now, but like if I'm like into a new health kick or whatever, like I go all in on that thing and then I'll realize like, oh, parts of that were good, but not all of the parts of it were good. And so, and that's been true for me in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
And in business, like gone like too hard at business at times to where it's affected my health or my relationships negatively.
Yes.
And it's like, it could be easy to look back and say, gosh, why am I frustrated with this part of my personality? Like, why am I that way? But then I think what I've been trying to do is just be grateful for that part of me, because it has also brought like so much goodness and fruit into my life and into others' lives, and not like condemn the bad, learn from the bad and acknowledge it, but not like condemn it and feel like shame about it. But just kind of accept it and also like thank my old self, whatever old version of myself that is, for like the good and the learning that has come from those experiences. So I don't know if that even makes sense. But
yes, of course it does.
Yeah.
Because we're always growing.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, we're growing. In one direction or another, we are growing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a beautiful reflection. And I appreciate you sharing it with us. Thanks. and being so willing to have that deep inner look and then be able to outwardly express it so that we can see ourselves in one way or another in your story. And I really appreciate you being here today and being so available to like such a juicy conversation. I'm very excited for this episode to air.
Thanks for the opportunity,
of course,
and for doing this and bringing these conversations to light.
Of course. Before we wrap, where can people find you? How can they be? And I'm going to do it again, everybody. Part of your world.
Our website is primallypure.com. Our Instagram is @primallypure. My personal Instagram is Bethany J. McDaniel. And then our podcast is Grounded Wellness.
I mean, it's all going to be in the show notes. I'm going to be following all the things and using all the products. And I couldn't be more grateful that you are sitting down with me for this. So
thank you.
That's it, y'all. That's another episode of Look at Me Now. Thanks for tuning in. I love you. Bye.
Join us for Look at Me Now, wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to share, like, and subscribe.